Hey guys, so I wanted to make this video about, about the New York Pro. So just just a thought that came to my mind as I was reading some of the comments about the New York Pro, about Nick and how Nick and Martin will do in the Olympia. Let's just start off by just analyzing Nick at this show. I mean, one thing that so Nick said this himself, that he said that this is his best look. He believes that he brought his best look to date to the show. Um, and, I tend to agree. And the reason I tend to agree is because one of his issues was that the midsection, like the larger midsection, when he was coming in huge, right, overpowering people, the only thing that people talked about as a negative was his midsection. So, with his physique, he's trying to strike of um, a balance of definition and leanness along with the the large, muscly, bubbly look. And so he doesn't want to come in too. Let me get this up here. So I'm going to go to RX Muscle just um, to do a little picture, show some pictures here. One second. Okay. So this is Nick, after he won. Um, so right there, I mean, he's holding his look, he's holding his stomach tight. Um, and this is a great look for him, I believe, because it's a combination of both of him being able to bring down that stomach, being able to bring down that midsection to a degree. I mean, he's never gonna have like a small waist like Andrew Jack or Samson. So he's trying to keep where he has an advantage, which is the size, the huge muscle mass that he carries, and then but at the same time trying to limit his downfall, which is his midsection. And I feel like he did that. So I totally understand what he's talking about when he says this is his best look. I think part of the problem that people have with this competition is that Martin came in really good. I mean, he really hit his peak here perfectly, and he stacked up pretty well with Nick, and to the point where it was a 1 point decision for Nick to win this show. So I think this has less to do with Nick not doing well, but more to do with Martin doing very well. And so I don't think Nick was off here. I don't think he was off at all, which then of course tells you that Martin was incredible, right? That he pushed a really good Nick at this show. Now, what does that mean for the Olympia? Does that mean that Martin is gonna beat Nick? Nick was third, so Martin is fighting for a top five spot. I can't say no, but I don't believe so. And the reason I don't believe so is because this was really a two-man show. I know we had a stacked lineup, but realistically, no one in the New York pro stage was going to push these two guys. I mean, Beef Stew made some great improvements. Tony made was doing, really well. But of course, Quentin was a disappointment here, and we can talk about that later. But at this point, I think it really was a two-man show. Everyone knew it. So really, Martin only needed to be compared to Nick, and it's easier to be compared to one person than it is to be compared to several people. So when Martin goes to the Olympia, he might do well one on one against Nick, but how's he going to do against Andrew? But how's he going to do against Samson? How's he going to do against Hadi? How's he going to do against Derek? And all those guys, or Labrada, all those guys. I think those guys with their advantages will bring out weaknesses in Martin that we don't see when he's being compared to Nick. And I think Nick obviously beats a lot of those guys on size and bubbliness and detail and just all that. So I still think Nick is going to be placed very high. I think he's going to beat Martin in the Olympia. And again, I think that because he's only being compared, these are two-man show here. The Olympia is going to be significantly more competitive guys there. And so, as you start comparing everyone to everyone else, everyone's weaknesses start to come out. And I believe that Nick has less weaknesses in a bigger lineup like that in the Olympia than he does here. And if that makes sense to you guys, just because Martin was able to hang with him here, when you throw an Andrew Jack into the equation, when you throw a Labrada into the equation with his mass and size, when you throw a Hottie with his detail, when you throw, Derek with his width of his back and everything like that, I feel like Martin is going to get lost in those, in that lineup. And I actually don't think that's that terrible. I mean, I think he can definitely be probably top seven, maybe. But see, the Olympia is much more stacked than this show by far. So it's hard for me to say that. Like we can see like this back right here, the back double by back shot. Um, like Martin has the size and he has good detail, but I still feel like Nick's back double by is the best I've seen in a long time. So I just think that he beats him on some of these back shots. And I really think that, Martin is going to have a hard time with some of these other guys. I think Martin has a really bright future ahead of him. I think he's eventually going to be, of course, and probably in the top four, top three. Um, but I just don't know if this year is going to be that year. I think he's doing real well right now. He wins his first pro show. He goes to New York, pushes Nick, but I just don't think it's going to be kind of the same kind of situation at the Olympia, which is fine. I don't think he should be ashamed of that or hang his, hat too low or hang his head too low after the Olympia if that does happen, because I mean, this is going to be, kind of his coming out, so to speak, his first go at with the big guys. So the guys at the elite level like that. So I don't think there's any, shame in that. Placing top seven, top eight. I think that's perfect. I mean, that's a perfect placing for him for his first time. And I think, as he keeps going, he'll improve and improve and improve and be significantly better. So I think that's gonna be exactly, what's gonna happen. That's my prediction. So I don't think anyone needs to really worry about Nick. I think Nick is going to be just fine. Um, and I agree with him. I believe when he says he brings his best, he brought his best look. I truly believe he did bring his best look. I think he reduced his negatives and still kept his advantages. And that's all you can ask of a guy to do. Um, and of course there's some disappointments. Like Quentin was extremely disappointed, or he was extremely disappointed. We were extremely disappointed in him because I really thought Quentin was just gonna come in and obliterate this lineup, and it was gonna be him and Nick and not Martin and Nick. But that was not even remotely close to what happened. I don't know if Buys and Tries has that picture, but he so he Quentin posted a pic right before the show, and well, he's a great shot. of Nick and Martin right here. And see, even here, like I'm looking at them. I mean, Nick really, I feel like Nick has better detail. Shoulders, arms, best arms in the business, I would say. I just he covers more room, more space. His legs look gnarlier. Like I think he's got Martin beat in a lot of different places. And the side try, I mean, I would still give it to Nick. Yeah, it's close, but Nick for me edges out a lot of these. Now here, I would probably give this to Martin. I think Nick does look a little blockier, and uh, and while his legs definitely look kind of gnarly, I think Martin has a way more aesthetic flow here and just a better overall look, better abs too, I would say. And here it's very hard for Nick to hide his inadequacies in this shot. But you know, here there, I mean, it's a pick 'em, look right here. I mean, it depends on who you like. Um, yeah. So, anyways, my point about Quentin, and I'm trying to find that picture, and I don't know if they're gonna have it here, but um, let me see. No, here it is. Here it is. So here's the picture of Quentin. Like this to me, when they posted this, I didn't. I was worried. He looks small here to me, smaller than what you would think he would look like in a hotel room. Um, it, it, he didn't look full. I know that he might have not carved up yet and so forth. Like I just don't think this is was a good picture. Now, everywhere I read on the for this picture when it came up, everybody was like, "Oh, it's so amazing. He looks great." Blah blah blah. When I saw this, I thought he looked a little too depleted. Um, of course, I thought that maybe he will carb up. There's just one picture, one day out. Maybe it was the angle and so forth, but I thought this was too depleted. This looked too depleted. And he definitely, I mean, he was out of the top five. I forgot what he placed, seventh or eighth or something like that, but it was not good at all. Beef Stew, on the other hand, did really well, made major improvements, um, but not not pushing Nick or Martin, but major improvements definitely. In the next few years, he's going to be one to watch out for. Um, and there's some guys that are just going to be pushing the standard guys that we see today at the top. However, I still think Derek. I think eventually Hottie will be out of the picture, and Derek will take over, and he will reign for a while, and then these new guys will start pushing him. So, but we'll see this year. This year would be interesting because I do believe that Hottie solidified himself. Um, and he might take it back this year. So we'll talk about that a bit later. But all in all, this video is really made to point out the fact that I believe Nick will still do significantly better than Martin at the Olympia. Um, Again, no shame to Martin. I just think once you start throwing guys into that mix, Martin will get you know, will get pushed back some. Nick will progress forward. I think he's top five. I think he might even still be top three at this point, seeing how Samson just could not, hit his peak this year. So, if I'm going judging by that, I think Nick would be third. So I'm giving them that. But yeah, I mean, guys, tell me what you think at the bottom of this video. Give some comments. Talk about it. Talk about this sport, this show, and what you think the Olympia is going to look like. Thanks, guys.